Netflix is often considered the founding father of modern streaming services, but is it still the king of streaming? Or are other companies getting ready to steal that streaming crown? We think in the next 5 years, Netflix will be nothing more than the next blockbuster, something only the older generation looks back fondly on. You may think this is controversial, but stick with us and we'll have you cancelling your subscription by the end. Netflix has a lot of fierce competition in 2021, but its most recent competitor may be the one to kickstart its downfall. We'll discuss the main reasons why we feel Netflix will fail in this video. Netflix started the streaming trend all the way back in 2007, if you can believe it, and has kept interest by housing a lot of famous comedy and drama shows like The Office, Friends, How I Met Your Mother, Suits, the list goes on. Over time, however, Netflix has been able to slowly grow its catalog, and it's even got some big recent movies on there as well, like Spider-Man Far From Home. Ouch, Disney! That's gotta hurt. However, licensing these movies and shows does not come cheap, which is why recently they've been trying to venture more into original shows as their main attractions, like The Witcher and Stranger Things. This has a lot of positives, since they can spend much less on hiring previously established shows and can rake in the profits from shows available only on their platform. Disney, however, has taken the exclusive route to a whole new level, and has led to acquisitions of major companies to bolster their catalog like Marvel or Star Wars, both with arguably the biggest fan bases in the world. TechRadar even interviewed the CEO of Slated, a film finance company, who said, "It's simply breathtaking how well positioned Disney are, with companies like ESPN, Disney Plus, and Hulu, which is the closest thing to Netflix and is slowly gaining on them, in part thanks to the live and ad-supported tiers." Now, to get an idea of how many potential customers Disney has right now, let's take their arguably biggest studio, Marvel, as an example. Avengers Endgame was the swan song of the MCU so far, and was a collection of over 10 years of work and over 20 movies. And what did over 10 years of work gain them? Just over $1.2 billion at the box office, shattering just about every box office record in existence, along with every comic book fan's minds. Seriously, when Captain America caught Mjolnir, my eardrums melted from the noise of the fans in the theater. So safe to say, that's a good point of reference as to where the fan base is right now. In 2019, when Endgame was first released, an average theater ticket cost about $9.16. If we divide the total box office by the average price that a theater ticket cost that year, you will get a rough number of people who went to see Endgame just in its opening week. And that number is an astonishing 131,004,366 people. Over 100 million people who have stuck with the MCU for over 10 years and naturally would want to see where the universe goes next. That's the equivalent to the entire country of Egypt all simultaneously wanting to get up and go see Loki right now. So, how to best attract them to your streaming platform? Make Disney Plus original shows focusing on the aftermath of Endgame, of course. Shows like WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which recently streamed to over 6.5 million people, and is not bad at all for a streaming platform's first original show, especially when these aren't even the most popular MCU characters. Imagine a show centered around big hitters like Thor or the Hulk or even Spider-Man. And this is just one of Disney's biggest cash cows, mind you. We haven't even talked about Star Wars or the hit Disney movie catalog that's got all of our childhoods by the balls. Also, with Disney striking out on its own like the beautiful Beyoncé it is, Disney properties that were previously on Netflix, like some MCU movies, will only be available on Disney Plus now, making them more considerable with popular and now exclusive content, while also dealing a massive blow to Netflix by leaving them with even less content. And this is even more of a gut punch against Netflix at the moment, because there are a lot of films and shows leaving the platform at the end of June. Some being big hitters such as Training Day or all the Back to the Future movies. What this tells us is Netflix is losing popular third-party titles fast, while Disney is throwing money like some sort of out-of-control Oprah, also it can secure the rights to as much content as it can, as quickly as it can. Disney Plus does have one problem though. A lot of its big blockbuster studios are starting to experience what's essentially a stagnation phase. Studios like Lucasfilm have already announced that Star Wars films will be taking a hiatus. Not only because we have gotten 6 Star Wars related films in the past 7 years, and 2 TV shows with 10 more already planned, but also because a lot of these films have kinda disappointed a lot of people. I'm looking at you, Rise of Skywalker. Anyway, this has led to a largely diminishing returns for each subsequent film, and it's no stretch to assume that this could be the case for the next 10 Star Wars shows already planned to hit Disney Plus at some point. This is where Netflix shines, because its ever-changing lineup of original shows has attracted a lot of people, and even the titles that are getting sequels and spin-offs are nowhere near as oversaturated as the Disney properties like Marvel and Star Wars. Stranger Things, for example, when it first came out, had over 24 million unique viewers in the first 3 days. And fast forward to its 3rd season, there have still been 18.2 million people who watched it in its entirety in the first 4 days since release. And you can already see that compared to WandaVision's respectable 6.5 million viewers, it starts to become apparent that WandaVision was the Nate Robinson by comparison. In the end, however, Disney still has a major advantage because, although some of their franchises are stagnating, Disney probably still has quite a bit of time to innovate and shake things up before it starts to hit their profit margins. In the meantime, Netflix doesn't have as much of these big name franchises to fall back on, and it definitely isn't launching as many independent movies to keep up with Disney's momentum. Hell, if Disney keeps its plan of launching more than 10 shows for each of its major properties, Netflix is going to have a very tough road ahead. Netflix's marketing expenses are nothing to scoff at, with about $17 billion per year just on video content alone. However, you might be wondering why you haven't been getting as many ads for Netflix's shows or anything recently. Well, there's a reason for that, and that's because Netflix actually cut advertising expenses by 23% in 2020. Now, why on earth would a company do that when a huge rival like Disney is right on their heels? Well, with a small global pandemic just beginning at the time, and since Disney Plus was just starting out and didn't have much content, Netflix trusted in the strength of their brand, and knew people who would be stuck at home would immediately think of Netflix as their pastime. And because of that, revenue rose by over 20% that year. With Disney, however, money is the way to go, by having them spend between 2.5 and 4 billion a year just on marketing, excluding video content. With figures like this, it's no wonder why all the ads you're seeing right now are just for Black Widow and Loki. There's even talks of Disney spending around $16 billion a year in video content by the end of 2024. The same figure that Netflix spends, but rather than taking 13 years to work up to that figure, Disney will reach that in little over 4. Disney can just spend millions to dangle their properties in your face, and since YouTube loves money, they're going to keep showing those same ads until you go see every Disney show there is. And the nail in the coffin to Netflix might come in the form of Disney's diverse platforms. Because they've got their hands in so many pots, from TV to music to toys, they can advertise to a much larger audience. Patternot even commented on Disney's ability to cross-monetize its various brands and assets between film, TV, music, and merchandising, giving it a competitive price advantage over Netflix, and therefore the freedom to take bigger financial risks. So, on top of having basically infinite money to spend on showing their shows everywhere you look, they don't even need to spend that much money since they own so many different platforms, guaranteeing that you see their products at least somewhere. In my opinion, Disney definitely has the upper hand here. Netflix just doesn't have the capital nor the platforms to compete with the amount of reach that Disney has. And this all means that Netflix, while spending the exact same amount of Disney is on video content, can't afford to compete with them for advertising space. From the different platforms to just the amount of money Disney has to shove its products in your face, it's clear that Netflix needs to adapt and find a new way of reaching new customers, and it looks like it's already starting. Netflix has already secured a bunch of brand deals with companies like Coca-Cola and Burger King to promote the new season of Stranger Things. This not only promotes a strong relationship with these brands and serves as a more old-school way of marketing, but it can also allow Netflix to enter markets that are rather difficult for a streaming platform to thrive in, like in the retail space. Because now Netflix can have merchandising opportunities just like Disney. If Netflix keeps going like this, it may gain a more solid following compared to Disney Plus, but only time will tell if this will be enough to counter Disney's marketing budget. 18 to 34-year-olds are said to be the best age range to target for your products, especially when it involves media, because it spans both the baby boomers and the Gen X generations. And the reason why they're the best age range to target is because they have the most amount of money to burn on entertainment, making them the perfect target for streaming platforms like Netflix. Disney, on the other hand, is taking a different approach. They have two key demographics: kids and adults with nostalgia. The child market is quite easy to understand, with Disney and Pixar movies as well as Marvel and Star Wars having plenty of action and cool effects to entertain children for days. This gives parents a much needed break away from the hyperactive, slobbering children, so a win-win for everybody in my opinion. Then we have the nostalgic adults, who watched the Disney and Pixar movies as kids, as well as grew up watching Star Wars or Marvel, making Disney more like their third parent in a way. This is much more interesting, because it is quite similar to the demographic Netflix is aiming for, but has a much more devoted fan base, since they grew up on these films and shows. But we mustn't forget that Disney, for the moment, doesn't own everything, especially in the television drama department. Up until its recent acquisition of Star, Disney didn't even have a solid foot in the drama department, which left Netflix to gain the advantage with certain demographics. And with Netflix having a much wider range of films and shows to watch, from its impressive anime gallery to its unique drama shows like Peaky Blinders, Netflix is definitely dominating the 18 to 34-year-old market. And so it's in a much better and more established position. At the end of the day, however, Disney is definitely in a much more favorable position, but not only because kids are the easiest target market to go after, since they're so easy to influence, but also because the parents of those kids most likely have a deep connection to the brand because of Disney properties being a part of their childhood. Don't tell me you don't have one Pixar, Disney, Star Wars, or Marvel movie that you quote so much. Disney, Star Wars, or Marvel movie that you quote so much. Your friends already find you annoying. And that's why Disney has already won. They've captured most adults by the nostalgia goggles. And this cycle will only repeat, as the kids will eventually have the same love for movies they watched growing up. It's a genius financial circle of life that essentially never stops printing money, and who doesn't want that? So, it seems Netflix is going to have a very tough few years in order to stay at the top to outlast Disney. Because Disney at the moment are in a spectacular position. Its properties and recent acquisitions mean that, although Netflix's library is currently vastly larger, it won't take long for Disney to catch up. Also, its diverse platforms like merchandising and TV means it will cost them a lot less to advertise to more people than on Netflix. And finally, the fact that Disney has such a stronghold in their target market means new subscribers will likely remain loyal subscribers for a long time.